want to dive into the infographics and information behind the current global pickup truck market. So, as we all know, the global pickup truck market is doing well. Current studies show that the global truck market, which includes gas, diesel, and electric trucks, was valued at $222 billion in 2021 and is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 1.6% in 2028 through 2028. The light-duty pickup truck segment dominated the global truck market and accounted for a largest revenue share of more than 91% in 2021. North America controlled the pickup market with a share of 77% of those trucks sold. The current leading truck models with the highest unit sales globally are the F-150, the Ram 1500, Toyota Hilux, Ford Ranger, and the Chevy Silverado. So, in order to qualify for a light-duty electric truck, the gross vehicle weight can be no more than 8,500 pounds with a payload capacity of 4,000 pounds. Now, for comparison, the 2023 Ford F-150 has a payload capacity of around 1,300 to 2,200 pounds. So we want to focus on the global electric truck market specifically. We expect growth from $1.2 billion in 2021 to $1.8 billion in 2022 at a compound annual growth rate of 45%. The electric truck market is expected to grow to $8.99 billion in 2026. All this data comes direct from the Grandview Research database, which is used by world-renowned academic institutions and Fortune 500 companies. This research also concludes that the electric truck segment is expected to witness the fastest growth rate over the forecasted period. Driving the electric truck market is a combination of government initiatives and increased OEM product launches of electric vehicles. And since we're here at SEMA, we figure it's a good idea to talk about the numbers on the electric truck aftermarket. So according to SEMA market research, parts, accessories for trucks and SUVs account for 30% of specialty equipment sales. Increasing numbers show higher sales with wheel and tire packages as well as suspensions, all registering double-digit gains over 2020. Segments like truck carriers or truck racks, carriers, bed liners, bed covers, and towing products logged year-over-year sales gains of over 25%. Off-road tires alone compromise for $2 billion annual market share and will undoubtedly be transferred over to the electric truck market. So now that we have some facts, we want to direct the discussion to our panel members for a little bit of their insight. We're going to start with Edward Hightower.
You know, most people that drive an EV, they're hooked. Most people that get into the endurance, they feel the benefits in handling. There's less body roll in the vehicle. The ability to control torque at each wheel makes the vehicle incredibly responsive on all road surfaces, on-road, off-road, snow, ice, and we're really proud of that. So
that's great.
Awareness and capacity.
Very cool. So that's a great point. Now, as far as what would be the advantages to having an electric truck on the job site? Obviously, you could charge your power tools and stuff like that, which is great, but what are some other advantages to having an electric truck?
The big one is total cost of ownership. Mm-hmm. I mentioned some of the points from a maintenance cost. You know, our maintenance intervals are significantly longer than what you would see for an internal combustion engine vehicle. Our first maintenance is approximately at 30,000 miles. So you're not bringing it in at 5,000 or 10,000 miles. I mentioned the capability, the handling, and the responsiveness as well. But also many companies and many commercial fleet businesses are looking at their ESG objectives and goals, environment, social, and governance objectives. Many of them are looking to green up their fleet. Many of them are looking for how they can meet their sustainability objectives. And we feel our product is a significant step for that.
Chris Salvo from Electrified Garage, we appreciate you coming again. I just want to say, based on speaking specifically of electric trucks, what is Electrified Garage expecting in the coming months or years that could bring additional income for businesses? Will you be offering suspension and tire upgrades, aftermarket truck accessories, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing is the aftermarket hasn't quite caught up with everything that's already out there. For instance, we had to develop from scratch a plow frame setup for a Model Y because a gentleman owns a bunch of property up in New Hampshire and wanted to be able to plow his own property. So we sat down and worked with Fisher to make a plow frame and get that all hooked up and working. But there's other issues that, that's kind of a crossover vehicle, so it needs additional ride height. It needs to have the suspension balanced out from front to back with a lot of additional weight up front. So we had to put air suspension in it as well. So I think, as you already mentioned, suspension is going to be a big one. Everybody wants to, lift or raise their truck. They want to put, bigger wheels and tires on it. So that's probably going to be the biggest stuff. But then I think that also from like a conversion standpoint, like we took an old 72 K10 pickup truck that was owned by Robert Downey Jr. And we took a Tesla drive unit and spun it sideways, made it the transfer case basically, and then put an 85 kilowatt pack in it. So people kind of want the old stuff in addition to the new stuff. There's nostalgia with the old stuff, but you want to have it so that it turns on every day. You don't have to worry about a carburetor and that kind of stuff. Torque is way better than any gasoline engine you're going to have. So there's a little bit of both as far as that's concerned.
Very cool. Now, as far as OEM EV maintenance and repairs, since you already have a garage, 3 locations,
Yep.
What kind of demands and stuff do you see from your customers coming in currently?
So that's a tricky one because as an OEM, you want to tell everybody that they don't need maintenance. I'm glad that you have an actual maintenance interval. Elon would want you to just put on your earmuffs and pretend that your car doesn't break or turn the radio up if it starts to make bad noises. The reality is, 80% of the vehicle is the same, but the driveline is obviously the major difference. I don't know about hub motors, but for a traditional, like a Tesla, you're not using your mechanical brakes all the time. So the brakes are going to probably rot out before they wear out. So in a lot of cases, yes, you can get 100,000 miles on a set of brake pads and rotors, but those rotors are going to be, basically falling apart if you don't take that stuff apart and clean and lubricate it and put it back together again. Outside of that, like drive units still have oil inside of them, as much as people don't want to admit that they still do have oil in them, and they do need to be changed. But it's more like a transfer case in that aspect. You're not having like combustion and everything else dirtying up the oil. It's not getting hot the way it would. So that still is something that has to be addressed. Outside of that, the biggest thing is with Tesla seems to be cabin filters and just the air you breathe. And those things are developing mold and mildew because Elon says you can go for 3 years on that. Well, it's going to be like a musty basement if you wait that long to change it. So outside of that, air conditioning systems are a big one. AC systems are now used to cool the batteries. So you have to make sure that those work all the time. When you go to do DC fast charging, you don't want to overheat the battery or the car is going to shut itself down. So then you'll be waiting for a very long time for it to charge slowly. So,
all right, Kelly Ash, Battle Motors, heavy duty industrial electric trucks sound awesome. So can you tell, aside from being the leader in industrial truck industry, what is currently the top priority for Battle Motors?
Top priorities for Battle are really safety, sustainability, and innovation. A lot of us are looking to decrease our carbon footprint, no matter what type of business we operate in, whether that's manufacturing or restyling. In the aftermarket, we're looking to decrease our carbon footprint, right, and increase our sustainability. Also improving innovations in the space. The light-duty space is very different than the commercial space as far as the standards that exist, as well as the level of technology that's going into the trucks. The great thing about what we're doing at Battle is we're making the innovations both on the powertrain side, the components that are going into the powertrain, but also the ADAS features and the electromechanical features. They're modular. So they are able to be installed into no matter what chassis you're putting them into, and having the training, certifications, and everything that is required for that body or for that platform. We even recently got into the powerboat space, which was a new one for me. But that's really exciting, as being able to partner with aftermarket companies to make it easier, safer, and more efficient to do so. So those are probably our top 3 priorities.
Very cool. Well, I know you mentioned safety, and I imagine that's going to be a big important thing with a massive machine that's all electric.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about Mobileye Connect? It sounds amazing. How many trucks are currently on the road that have Mobileye, and can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. We partnered with a company called Mobileye and also T-Mobile to install collision avoidance ADAS features into our trucks. A lot of companies, a lot of OEMs are creating these technologies themselves in-house. For speed to market, we partnered with Mobileye to be able to provide these ADAS features in commercial vehicles. The hard part about commercial vehicles is weight distribution with EVs. You guys mentioned weight distribution on the aftermarket side, but also on the fleet side, it's a problem. And when you're talking about commercial vehicles that have a GVW of up to 100,000 pounds in the agricultural space, it becomes even more of a problem. And when you're talking about putting that EV powertrain into a powerboat, speedboat, that's very different. So, being able to take the collision avoidance detection and even lane centering, the body roll, when you're talking about an 80,000 pound truck versus an 8,000 pound F-150 is very, very different. So making sure those calibrations are completed so the aftermarket doesn't have to figure it out is something that we are working on, but also making sure that the instructions, the calibrations are clear and easy to do so for the aftermarket. Those are something that's been part of Mobileye Connect, and our partnership with T-Mobile has allowed us to push through over-the-air updates into our software and in real time, but also provide the aftermarket shops with installation instructions. They can order parts directly from our tablets. And being able to do that all remotely over T-Mobile's network has been a really great partnership.
So how do these startup companies bridge the gap between the users and the EV industry? User interfaces and menus will be an all-new world to the consumer, which is why Brent Dreyer is a very important person to have on here from Faraday Future. They are pushing the envelope of integration. Brent, we appreciate you coming.
Happy to be here.
So after digging through the website and learning about the company concept, we wondered if you could share your vision on Faraday Future, creating an intelligent mobility ecosystem that empowers everyone to move, connect, and breathe freely.
Yeah, so you think about your normal day, you're very well connected and entertained by the world through the internet. Whether you're at home with your smart TV or at work with your workstation, you've got connection. You're connected to the world. You can get information and entertainment. But it's a little bit more of a dead zone when you're in your car. The car is more a box on wheels than a smartphone on wheels today. You have home and you have the office where you're well connected. We call that internet living spaces. Our vision at Faraday Future is to basically turn the vehicle into the third internet living space. We want the car to be alive, awake, aware, a living thing that you are interacting with, rather than just getting you from point A to point B. So to do that, you need a very good cell network signal, whether it's T-Mobile. Our particular vehicle has a multi-modem where we can connect to multiple cell networks at the same time and fuse that data connectivity, that bandwidth, into one strong signal, no matter where you are in the country. You want a strong Wi-Fi hotspot in the car. You'll also need voice control, as well as artificial intelligence. So you got to take all these kind of new technologies, put them all together using a heck of a lot of computing power, and make it all work. That's what people want. That's where we're headed.
As far as the truck folks that live in cities with skylines full of smog and pollution, we hear you're developing some new clean energy technologies to leave this planet a better place?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we like voice control for these advanced infotainment, telematics, autonomous driving. Voice control works better than having buttons on your dash. You don't have a button that says, navigate me to the nearest 5-star burger restaurant. That button doesn't exist. You ask the system what you want, and it dynamically and intelligently responds to that. So you can imagine if you're in a super noisy diesel truck, that voice control is not going to work so hot. So this is where EV propulsion really helps maximize the benefit and capability of these advanced infotainment systems, because you're getting a quiet driving experience in the cabin. Your voice control systems suddenly work. Your artificial intelligence can do its thing. So this is really where we see a fusion of electric propulsion and these advanced infotainment systems coming together and making something that's mind-blowing.
Jerome, let's jump over to you, sir. The journalist for the world's first and only current electric vehicle publication. What are your thoughts on the future of electric truck customizing by enthusiasts and gearheads alike?
Well, I think we all love to modify our cars and our trucks, so I don't think the drivetrain is going to make any difference. If we were driving steam engine trucks, we would still want to modify them. So I think it's it's actually going to bring more innovation and more interest, and a younger audience also. So I can only see the truck and the EV in general, the world of the EV, to explode really. And we've seen this with OEMs and in particular with modifiers and retrofitters.
I agree. Yeah, I was just going to jump into that. Now that the book is focused on OEM EV modifications and retrofits, and since it's the only second issue that's been produced, have you seen more of a momentum on the OEM EV side or on the retrofit classic truck gearhead side?
Well, I've seen a significant growth in both. OEMs are going full on, and specialists are fully embracing OEM modification. But the retrofit industry has been just exploding. But not only in the US, we've seen companies growing in Australia, in Europe, in the UK in particular. So it is a global phenomenon. So be ready for next year at SEMA and discover even more EVs and modified EVs. I'm sure you've seen already probably about 50 retrofitted vehicles today, whereas 3 years ago there was maybe a handful of EVs. So yeah, the market for modified EVs and retrofitted EVs is just expanding at a very impressive rate.
Yep, that's what we see too. So as far as the new EV truck buyer that has no experience in the truck aftermarket, will this book help them with entry-level enthusiast upgrades and modifications that they're looking for, or particular parts that they want to buy, or for their own personal truck upgrades?
Yes, we offer, the magazine is aimed at the newcomers in the EV world, and they can discover new OEM vehicles and the new modification you can bring to them. And I was really surprised when, say, the F-150 Lightning came out. Many shops were already bringing suspension kits and wheels and tires, so the whole industry is embracing the EV world. And to be fair, if you work in the ICE world, you can probably embrace the EV world. I mean, unless you're just doing exhaust tips, you will bring products for EV vehicles and trucks.
Pretty quickly, we realized there was a pretty big skill gap between those who want to convert a vehicle and those who can, and the gap specifically, again, with the builders and then the manufacturers. So that's why we've developed kits and education. So SEMA last year, we rolled out our product agnostic certified technician program. That was virtual, self-paced, designed to take a first-time builder who has some mechanical skills, it's ongoing workforce training through a build from start to finish. And even if that particular individual or institution decides to move into OEM EV work as well, they still have a foundational understanding of what a DC-DC converter does and what a battery management system is and how that works and how to calculate power in an EV. And then, so we've had that program out for a year. And then this year, actually at SEMA today, we're announcing our Legacy EV Education Roadshow. So we quickly realized that while the virtual self-paced course is great and people still want to get their hands on things, and at this point, we figured the best way was to take that education with them.